Good morning, everyone. We are live. Make sure your cameras are on. Up is New York. There. Nady, Marta, Juan, I see you. Lula somewhere. Yanitza, Sam, Danny, Shanice, or Philly. Okay. And Alexis, camera, please. Make sure your cameras are on, please. All right. Do you guys have any questions before we start this chapter? Any questions regarding previous chapters you'd like to address? No? In the chat? If you're watching on YouTube, you can also participate by going to the live chat. Question? Going once. Twice. Make sure you have your cameras on, please, everybody. Mr. Solano, make sure your camera's on, please. All right, so today we're going to talk about real estate investment. It's not, I have to give you a warning. I give a warning to everybody when we get to this chapter. It's not real estate investment as I'm going to show you how to flip houses and how to rehab and all that stuff. That's not that type of chapter. It just talks about the basics of what a real estate is as an investment versus home ownership. And it talks about the benefits in taxation as an investment versus ownership. Okay, so make sure you guys pay attention. It is heavily tested. It's not, but do pay attention. There's probably like 2 or 3 questions regarding this, but it is going to be very helpful for you when dealing with clients. So pay attention to that, okay? Hey, Sam, are you eating breakfast? Is that what it is? We are at 18 Oliver Street. You're always welcome to bring breakfast. I see how it is. All right, so here's what we got. We're going to talk about investment fundamentals, real estate as an investment, real estate investment entities, taxation of real estate investments, and then analysis of a residence versus income property, which is part of what we went through already with chapter 16. All right. So under the investment fundamentals, we're going to talk about different things: investment characteristics, rewards, risks, and types of investments. Right. So with that, my first question to you guys is, what is this word? What does investment mean? What does investment mean? Who can tell me what investment means? Let me know in the chat. I like to have different opinions, so I'll let you guys just write it down as much as can. So what does investment mean? Let's see what we got. All right. So Sam says, put money in to gain profit. Sinead says to profit. Nadia says, put your money to work. ROI, return on investments. Juan says, make a valuable thing work for you. I'll keep it PG. It's Monday morning. You know, keep it nice, sweet. Let's go to the next one. So, every time I see stuff like this, it just reminds me of Steve Harvey, the show that he has, Family Feud. People always come up with the craziest things, and then these are easy to pick up on. So, invest your money to make money, or take something of value and put work to increase the value over time. Okay. So far, yeah, I'll take this one, right? And this one kind of make the value thing work for you. All right. So here's the thing. There you go. An investment is putting something of value into something and getting some type of return. So a lot of you wrote profit, right? A lot of you wrote put your money to work, right? But is it only money that makes an investment? Can we invest something other than money? Like no money at all? Can I jump into a business, for instance, with no money? Time, very good. So Nadia's like, time, like I have to see the little tiny screens and details. Yeah. So time, yes, you can put time into things. Effort is valuable as well. I can go into a partnership. Let's say we partner up with you guys, and I say, hey, listen, I found the perfect deal. I don't have the money. I'm trying to raise money. I work the deal. You guys put in the money, right? At this moment, what I'm putting is my time, my effort, and expertise, but $0. You are putting money and expecting some type of return. Me, I'm putting time, effort, and expertise into it. Does that make sense? So it's not only money. You got to remember that. Now, the other question was, as far as investment, is some of you put here for profit. Okay? So you're telling me, Sam and Sinead, the two S's right here, right at the beginning, you're telling me that if I get into a relationship, all I'm looking is for profit? That's what it is. Okay, well, okay. All right. I'll be single from now on. She said, yep. That's funny. All right, so anyway, do you have anybody here has a job? Raise your hand if you got a job. All right, great. So if you have a job, you go to work, right? You put in time and effort, right? And in exchange, you get paid some type of compensation. Is that profit? It's profit or is it an exchange? You're exchanging time for money. That's what it is. It's not a profit per se, but it is an investment. Okay? But it is an investment. Sam says, so you're telling me that if I put my time into my kids, they'll get a good investment. Hopefully. Your kids, yeah. I put my time and they make money and they take them. Listen, it is what it is. Anyway. The point is, so it's an exchange, and that's why for the Internal Revenue Code, it's not considered an investment. You pay for the wages instead of investment income because it's not a profit. But it is an investment still, because if you don't go to work, you don't get paid. You got to invest. A relationship is an investment. The question is there always profit? Is there always a return? Do we always have a good or great investment, or is there a possibility that we have like or bad investments? School time is an investment. There you go. Very good. This is an investment. The money you put in and the time you're putting in right now is an investment, and you expect some type of return. The question is it guaranteed? Are we always going to get a return? The question is it guaranteed? Sam, we're beyond that. It is to get something later. Got it. But do we always get a return? Is it always a profit? Is it always good? Could it be like, or what could it be? Right? So, as some of you are saying, no, it's not always good. It's not always going to give you a return. So you're telling me that no investment is guaranteed. Therefore, there is some degree of what? Risk. Okay? So technically, guys, what I want you to understand is that every investment is risk. Okay? Every single investment is risk. That's what it is. All right? So investment is not putting your time, money, and effort into something and expecting profit. No. An investment is a risk. An investment is a gamble. There's no guaranteed investment. Look, one of the most guaranteed investments that could exist is real estate. Like, it's like the most solid investment you can have, real estate. And in 2009, it crashed, leaving millions of people on the street, leaving millions of people with negative equity, meaning owing more to the bank than what they actually, what the property is actually worth. Okay, millions of people struggled to hold on to it and maintain. Guys, please avoid phones. If you're on the if you're here in class, stay in class. Otherwise, your hours will not count. All right, very important. Your hours will not count. I'm here for you. I hope you're here for you as well. That's all I can say. So, back to this. So, a lot of people lost in the most stable investment ever, right? Because stock market is not stable at all. I mean, you can be a stock whiz, you know how to, like, especially day traders and all that. They're focused on that, the ups and downs, and drop it right now, let it go, and this and that, right? They're okay with the loss already. They know they're going to lose some, but then ultimately they're making a lot of money, right? But there's a high degree of risk because stock is so volatile, right? That 2009 for real estate happens all the time, every minute in a stock. So the moment it's going up, it could crash like 100 points, right? And then come back up. So it's very risky. Your job is like a low risk investment, right? Medium to low risk investment, because if you work, you get paid, right? Traditionally. But is there a chance that a pandemic shows up and 1 in every 6 businesses closes down and you lose your job? You see what I'm trying to say? So there's always, it doesn't matter what it is, they can tell you 100% guaranteed you'll never lose money. Doesn't matter what it is, there's always some type of risk involved. So there's low risk investment, medium risk investments, and high risk investments. These are things you need to know as fundamentals, is that the degree of risk also determines the return you have. So the more risk the investment, usually higher the return. The lower risk investment, usually lower the return. So it's like there's a direct relationship to that. So stock market, you can make a lot of money, 40% returns, 50%, 100% returns. but it's high risk, right? Your job, you're going to make your money, very low risk, but there's still risk. All right? So, putting that in perspective, right? I have a question for you. So we already know about your job. Relationship, we talked about it. Kids, you mentioned. What about gambling? What about if you go to, like, the Mega Millions right now is 260 or 270 million? What about if you go play for the Mega or Powerball, right? It's only $2, right? It used to be back in the day $1 in a dream. Now it's $2, the same dream. So, what kind of investment is this? Is it a low risk, medium risk, or high risk investment? $2 to get the millions. Is it a low risk, medium risk, or high risk investment? Hey Rose, good morning. All right, so we got mixed messages here. Let's go see what we got. Bernard says low. Juan says low. Lexus says high. Hi, Lexus. Sunity says low, and Yanisa says high. All right, cool. And then Rose says hi. Okay. Anybody else chime in? Low risk, medium risk, high risk. So, the degree of risk is not determined, right? Listen to this carefully. The degree of risk is not determined by the amount of money you put in. The degree of risk is determined by the return that he has. All right? So, the degree of risk is based on what we call ROI, return on investment. Okay, we're going to go over all this stuff in a second. But if I put $2, right, the other thing that's involved is called cost of entry. Cost of entry and ROI are two different things. See, gambling, putting $2 for that dream of winning $1 million or $2 million or $100 million, $2 is a low cost of entry into the investment. But what return are you going to get? What are the odds of you making money back? Okay? So therefore, gambling is high risk because more often than not, you lose money. You just put the $2, you keep on putting $2 every week or twice a week, whatever it is. You keep on putting $2. It's high risk. It's a very high reward if you get it, but it's high risk with a low cost of entry. You guys understand? Now this class is medium risk. See, gambling, it's out of your control. This class is medium to low risk because it's all up to you. It's low cost of entry to get into real estate versus opening another business, right? Because if you open up a store, you have to have $20, $30, $40, $100,000 to open up a business, right? Here, less than $1,000 and that's it. You're in the game already. Between the class, the license, activating everything, fingerprinting, and National Association of Realtors, whatever, about $1,000, you're in business. So that's a low cost of entry and a high return, right? But it's medium to low risk, right? The biggest variable you're going to have in this type of business, in real estate business, the biggest variable you're going to have is you, okay? The biggest variable in any type of investment usually is people, right? Because we're just scared, right? We just take money out or you know what, not sure, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, right? In real estate, in this type of business as a realtor, salesperson, broker salesperson, whatever, in this business, you get what you put in, right? It's not like your job. Your job, you're going to go to work, and I'm not telling you to quit today, okay? Take your time. But your job, you're going to go to work, and you do enough not to get fired, but guess what? Your boss pays you enough for you not to quit, right? In this business, the more effort you put in, right? And when I'm saying effort, understand one thing. It's not like you're going to work harder than anybody else or in any other business, right? But it's work harder on understanding the business and putting effective systems in play. So in the beginning, yeah, you got to work really hard until you understand how the game goes, right? But after that, the return on your investment, you put $1,000 into this business, you come out with 10, 20, 30, 40, $100,000 a year or more. Low cost of entry, high rate of return. Are you guys understand this? Right? So the cost of entry has nothing to do with the ROI. These are two separate things that you need to understand the type of investment you're in. Okay? You guys good? All right. So this was just an introduction to investments. So investment characteristics. If you have any questions, just chime in. Okay? So the idea of investment is simple. You take something of value and put it to work in some way to increase value over time. I love those that like to copy and paste. It was great, by the way. With any investment, one wants the original investment to grow without losing it. Now, this idea is called conservation of capital. Unfortunately, no investment is truly secure. External conditions change, and the investment itself can change. Even if you do nothing to it, its value does not remain constant. And that brings us to what we've been talking about, which is risk versus return, right? So the general rule is in investments is that the safer the investment, the more slowly it gains value. The more you want it to gain and the more quickly, the more risk you have of losing it, right? We went over this. So how much do you want to earn? How much are you willing to risk to earn it? Reward in investing corresponds directly with the degree of risk. Management. Another aspect of investment is the amount of attention that you must pay to make it work. Again, the reason why I don't do stocks personally, is the amount of attention that it demands from me, right? So I don't dwell into that until I have something else established. So for instance, well, as you guys, some of you know, New Direction School as a school is a new venture, right? That was my investment. That was my slow investment. I know the risk, I know the return, and I've been managing this risk, understanding what I'm going to gain in the end, right? It's very slow to give me the return that people usually expect, but I understood when I got into it, right, the type of return. So this is very important you guys understand. With any type of investment, what you are doing and what do you expect out of it, right? Especially, and going back to the business that you're in, especially people that are employed, you expect that weekly payment or bi-weekly payment. In real estate, we don't have that. So it takes some time for you to replace your salary, but once you do, it's a never-ending stream. I can guarantee you that. If you keep on doing the same thing over the years, never-ending stream. It replaces your salary, and it could even give you a tenfold, right? Okay, I like to give the example of a couple of our realtors here. Hook me up with your financial advisor. I am a financial advisor. Thanks, Nadia. Appreciate it. But sure, let's talk. Did she just log out after I said that? Back. Anyway, what was I saying? So I like to talk about the realtors that I have here because I see what the effort they put in and the returns that they're getting. And at the real estate office, we have right now, I think we're at 44 agents, 43 or 44 agents, and these are licenses. Doesn't mean they're active. Meaning their license is active, but they might not be active. We have very few, and this happens in every real estate office. There's not one real estate office that will tell you, and if they do, they're BSing. Okay, they will tell you, yeah, all our agents are successful. No, because everybody has a different degree of participation in their business. Some people hunt, other people wait for the catch to come to them. In this business, you got to hunt until you hunt so much that you become the king or the queen of the jungle, and stuff is handed to you. Does that make sense? When they start receiving those referrals, right? And I see that with a couple of our realtors. For instance, I always talk about Mario, that brings me coffee once in a while, right? I always talk about Mario because, and I have another student of mine that's a different agency, that they started more or less around the same time, and they're so actively started. Their license, one of them, the license was activated way earlier, but actually doing business beginning of this year, okay? And from the beginning of this year until now, they've been hunting and hunting and hunting, and they're standing out from the crowd, right? They're closing so many deals in their first year compared to people that experienced, have been doing this for 10 years and don't close as many deals a year, right? So the degree of risk is based on the money that the time and management of your time that you put in, right? Nadia, thank you for coming back. I'm sorry if I told you I'm a financial advisor as well, and I told you I did not want to talk to yours. I was joking. I don't mind talking to people. Let's share ideas. Absolutely. But I'm glad you're back. All right. Thought I lost you. All right, next. Liquidity. The other risk that we have, right? And liquidity is a risk because liquidity means money being easily accessible. So this word right here, liquidity, right, is when money is fluid, money is liquid, meaning I can tap into it whenever I want. Like a checking account, the money is readily available. Okay, the money is readily available. So it's very liquid. Stocks, bonds, I can cash out at any time. I might get it 2 days later, depending on the service that you use. I might get it 2 days later, but it's still easily accessible. Now, real estate, for instance, and we're going to talk about this later again, real estate is illiquid. Illiquid means it's tough to tap into to get money, right? So if you need cash tomorrow, you might have to sell the building at a loss in order to get the cash right away, right? So liquid means your cash is readily available, okay? So the issue of exchangeability is an important in one investment. How easy is it to recover the investor resource without loss, okay? Let me mark this right here, without loss. And exchange it for another that you want. If there is a market for the type of resource you have, other people want to buy and sell it themselves, your investment is liquid. The most liquid form of financial investments generally is cash, since cash itself is a medium of exchange and people always want it. A more illiquid investment is one which takes a long time to exchange for something you prefer to own. How long are you willing to wait to recover your invested resource and its earnings? Okay. Now, the basic aim to financial investment is to increase one's wealth, obviously, to add value to what you already have. And this can happen in several ways. One of them is through income. All right. So an investment that gives you some type of income, right, is a great investment. That's why multifamily usually are the best first-time home buyer investment, right? And we talked about those programs already. So there's the best investment because it gives you income every month, right? The other side of it is appreciation. So income comes every month, right? Appreciation is a future value. Appreciation is I bought this property today for $50,000 and 5 years from now it's going to be worth $100,000. 20 years from now it could be $300,000, $400,000. That means the return on your investment was great because of the appreciation, what it was worth later. So there's two types of investments you need to look at: income and appreciation. Not all properties bring you income, but all income properties usually bring you appreciation. Okay? So it's very important. Income and appreciation is the best you can have, something that does both. The other feature of an investment that people need to remember is leverage. Okay? I had a conversation with somebody here last week. Yeah, last week. And this person was putting $100,000 as an example into the purchase of a house, $100,000 cash, right? So a buy, fix, and flip. So a rehabber. That's what this investor was like. And I'm like, so you're purchasing the whole thing cash. Yeah. All right, cool. So let me ask you something. Do you have any reserves? Like if something happens, if you need that money, or if the investment is not that good, right? Maybe you made a mistake. Okay, do you have enough money to continue, or you take that loss and that's it? Your life is over. These are things to consider, right? And when I say life is over, like talking about your investment life is over, because a lot of people make the mistake of putting all their money into something, right? So I explained what leverage was. Leverage is what we do all the time when we go buy a house, right? We put 3.5% down, we put 10% down, we put 20% down. We're leveraging by putting a small portion of money, right, and borrowing from the bank. So we're leveraging somebody else's money to buy the property we want. And I explained that. Leverage, right? So if you want to, it's an example. If you want to move something big, like a rock, I don't know if you guys remember back in the day when we didn't have machines. I don't know if you guys remember that. People had really long hair, no showers, no nothing. Back, the cave ages. Do you guys remember those? Right? So to move the big rocks to get stuff out of the way, we could use a small rock. Now, how did we use a small rock? Right? The small rock cannot move a big rock, but then we'd get a branch, for instance, a tree, something that we could put in between, right? We could put in between so we can leverage. And that small rock, with a little bit of push, could move the big rock. That's what we do when we put 10% down and we borrow 90%. We're still getting the big rock, right? We're still getting the 100% rock, which is the purchase, right? But we only put a little bit of money. Where's the degree of risk on this? $10,000 on a $100,000 investment, for instance, right? $10,000 what I put in. Worst come to worst, nobody wants to think of this, but we can go through bankruptcy, right? Worst comes to worst, if that there's no other alternative. If we cannot negotiate with the lender, if we cannot sell the property, worst comes to worst, bankruptcy. But how much did we lose? We lost $10,000 versus losing $100,000. See the difference? Right? I'm not encouraging bankruptcy. I'm just showing you guys. I want to put it out there too. Even though bankruptcy is a great tool because it's a reset of your financial life, but I'm not encouraging bankruptcy. I encourage always people to look at alternatives, negotiate with lenders first, right? But anyway, leverage is key. Putting the 10%, you're leveraging to move the other 90. You guys got it? Leverage? Okay. Never put all your money into an investment. Which then brings me to this. If you have the same $100,000, right? And this is how much you have, cash. And then you see a property, right? We're going to call it property A. You see a property that's being sold for $100,000. And guys, there are areas and there are properties where they're worth $100,000. So this example is a real example. It could be higher, like the higher amount, but we're going to stick to $100,000. So based on what I told you, let's say it's conventional because you're an investor. It's not FHA, it's not VA. Conventional, they look at 20% down payment as an example. So if you have $100,000 cash, would you buy this cash or would you borrow from the bank? Let me know. Would you buy it cash or would you borrow from the bank? So then if you got the $100,000 cash, let's talk. So then he says, I want nothing to do with the bank. Okay. All right. Lady? 18 Oliver Street. Come by. Your mom's there fighting you? Go, mom. What's up, mom? There you go. Ophelia says, borrow from bank 20%. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And you ready, Sanady? You want nothing with the banks. I get it. No problem. But if you put 20% down, that's the same as $20,000 to buy that investment, property A. What if the properties in the area are roughly that, $100,000? How many properties can you buy? See, with the same $100,000, you just put 20% here, 20% here, 20% here, 20% here. So you got yourself 5 properties instead of 1. Go ahead, tell me you don't want nothing to do with the bank. Same $100,000 cash, I just got you 5 income properties that will pay off your investment maybe in 5-6 years if you do things right. But tell me you want nothing to do with the bank. Understand one thing, guys. There's good debt and there's bad debt. A good investment, if you have the right numbers, right? It's all about numbers. It's all about knowing what you're getting yourselves into. Again, the risk, the reward, right? But a good debt will be this, an investment that gives you the return, pays itself off, right? So let me ask you something. Just, wondering. When you go, do you have credit cards? You do, okay. When you go buy a coffee, or when you go buy lunch, or when you're gonna go shopping at the supermarket, or when you put gas, do you use your debit or use your credit? Debit or credit? Big mistake. Build credit. Using your debit does not help you in any way. If you guys treat your credit card more like your debit card, right? Like, let's say you swipe, you got to pay it, so the money is there to pay it, right? Then you're building credit. The banks love you, right? And usually with credit cards, if something goes wrong, you call them up, they cancel the card, they send you one next day. Like, you got another card next day. If it's your debit card, for them to investigate anything takes weeks. So you're losing money by using your debit card. Your debit card, one says cash, that's even worse. Oh, you're trying to save on the taxes, that's what it is. If I pay cash, right? The point is, guys, especially in this type of business, leverage is key. Leverage is key, right? Being able to build credit can take you from, and I'm not going to get too much into this right now so I can move forward, but if you're able to build credit, once you open up a business, an LLC or something like that, you can leverage what you've built over the years to be worth $100,000, $200,000, or $300,000 in business credit, sometimes even more, per LLC, per corporation. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? If you keep on using cash or using your debit, you're affecting your ability of growth in terms of investments. All right? Now, if somebody wants to learn how to use your credit properly, hire, okay. All right, cool. There you go. So Sam's already advertising. Up to you. You want to share the info, share the info. I cannot do that. But anyway, so the point is, getting into this business, there's going to be a lot of people going to ask you, hey, I want to invest. What should I do? If you're not the investor, the professional or expert, right, then it's going to be tough for you to tell them what to do. If you don't do these things yourself, then it's going to be tough for you to explain what to do, right? There's different kinds of investments. There's a credit card investment. There's the property investments. There's life insurance. You can use life insurance as an investment tool. There's 401ks. there's IRAs, there's so many different platforms for investments that you guys need to learn. It's key. Leverage. See, the banks already use your money that you put in your checking account. They use your money to do the same thing. They're leveraging your money. They lend your money. We talked about this in the previous chapter. They lend your money. And here you are using your money. Let me use cash or let me use debit. No, leverage the leveraging. You understand? Become the bank. You want to be wealthy? Become, let me write this down. Become the bank. Okay? You want to be wealthy? Become the bank. It's all about leverage. Banks leverage other people's money. It's all about leverage. Banks leverage other people's money. Okay? Who has life insurance? Raise your hand if you got life insurance. All right, cool. Do you guys know if it's a term policy or if it's a whole policy? If it's a term policy, put your just one finger up. Okay, if it's a whole policy, whole life, give me 2. If you don't know, give me 3. You need to know your investments. All right? But do you know what life insurance is? It's leveraging other people's money. You pay a premium, and if you die, they give you a whole lump sum of money. Not you, well, your heirs or whoever you designated, but whole lump sum of money. But you leverage other people's money, right? Here's the other question. Who has car insurance? Now everybody should raise their hand, right? Got car insurance? Great. You're paying a premium, and if you get into an accident, they pay, right? That's leveraging. The only difference between the car insurance and the life insurance, if it's a whole life versus term. So car insurance and term policies are pretty much the same. You pay, and then you only see the reward, 1 if you get into an accident, or 2 if you die, right? That's it, when you see the reward. Whole life, or another form, which is index universal life, is pretty much is an investment. It could be treated as an investment because it accumulates value over time. It accumulates cash, and you can borrow against it. Are you guys understanding this? Leveraging is key. That's how the wealthy became wealthy, right? Leveraging, becoming the bank. Okay? Because that's all the banks do, leverage. So you may pledge the value. So Sam, I cannot do that, but if you guys need any help, you can ask me and I'll let you know who to contact. So I cannot be advertising in the group, but I appreciate it. Then it says, oh, I love mom too. There you go. Let her love, let her know. All right, and those of you that have policies that don't know what you're doing with it or what you have, if you want a free review, you're also welcome to come by the office or submit your policy, the declaration, whatever you have. We'll check it out for free. No cost, no obligation. It's really just to explain to you what you have. I also teach insurance, so helpful to know what you have, right? So, leverage, you may pledge the value of your resource to borrow funds in order to make an investment that is larger than your own resource permits you to do directly. The small resource is used as a lever to make a larger investment and thus increases your opportunity to benefit from income, appreciation, and other rewards of investments. Tax benefits. The greatest thing about investments, right? The greatest thing about investments is that they receive a treatment under tax laws that enables the investor to reduce or defer, that means push for later, the amount of tax owed. The tax dollars you don't have to pay as dollars you have available for some other use, such as consuming or further investing. Now, the investment risks that come from a variety of general sources, including the markets, business operations, the value of money, and changes in interest rate. As far as market risk, right? Like I said, sometimes markets may lose value, may crash, right? There's that cycle that we talked about in chapter 15, that cycle, right? That property values go up 10 to 15%, but then they go down 10 to 50%. Kind of like an adjustment, right? Business risk. Well, that's you. Management of your business. Are you doing things right? Are you doing things wrong? Did you make a mistake? Right? Which happens. So you could lose value. Purchasing power of a risk. The purchasing power has to do with inflation. And this is key, understanding purchasing power. Let's talk about purchasing power real quick. Who has a savings account? Okay, keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you have money in your savings account. Okay. All right. Just saying, because some people, they have like $10 there. It's an investment account, but you can put your hand down. Sorry. But they have only a couple of dollars. All right. Now, if you guys don't mind, just let me know how much money you earn on your savings account. Let me know in the chat how much money you're earning on your savings account. Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 3%? Is it 100%? Is it 0.5%? How much money you're earning on your savings account? Let me know. Rose says 0. You cannot be earning 0. It could be 0 point something, but not 0. Anybody else? I had like 8 hands up, so Rose says 0.01. All right, so that's one of them. We got 0.01. What else? You guys are shy? Juan says 0.5. Anybody else? So Rose, I don't think it's 0.01, but could be close to it. So I'm gonna go, since people are shy. Okay, Yanita says 0.2. Okay. So I have no clue now that you say that. Now I know why you don't like banks. You don't even check them. All right. So hold on. You ready? I'm gonna go with the highest so far. I'm gonna erase these. Juan says he has 0.5%. Right? 0.5%, my man, is the same thing as keeping your money under your mattress. Make it nice and fluffy. Your pillow as well. All right, let me show you real quick. There's something called inflation. Okay, so if you're earning money at 0.5%, okay, if you're earning money on 0.5%, over the years, this is your growth. Over the years. Okay? The problem is that inflation, it's almost at 4%. We're going to put 3.7%. So this is your savings. This is inflation. For those of you who don't know what inflation is the cost of living. Things increase in value over time. So at 3.7%, starting at the same point, it's something like this. So you have this gap right here. This is how much money you're losing. Actually, let me do this differently. This is how much money you're losing in that savings account. Right there. Okay? You are negative. Why? Quickest example, $100. About 30 years ago, equal 1 full shopping cart. Okay, $100 30 years ago. Okay, the same $100 today equals 1 piece of meat, 1 gallon of milk, and some chips, because they're $3 for a bag of chips. $3 each bag of chips. So obviously I'm joking around with this one, but it's for you guys to understand. With $100, 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, you walk out with that shopping cart full, all the way up. Try to go with $100 to the supermarket today and tell me you can stock your house for the next week with $100. You know? Today you said 400. That was it. It was 4. Flip the cart. No, I saw you do this, so I don't know. But yeah, it could be close to that. That's the cost of living. Inflation keeps on increasing over time. So the same $100, the money has not changed, but the purchasing power has because of inflation. So if your money is growing, this is when you can tell you have a bad investment. And Juan and everybody else, I'm not saying that your savings account is a bad investment, but not using your money to beat inflation is a bad investment. So any investment you get into has to be above this mark. Okay? At any point, wherever you are in life, your investment has to be above this mark, not below. So if your return is 0.5%, if your return is anywhere below 4%, right, is bad return. And then at the end of the year, if you have a savings account, depending on the money you earned, you still have to pay taxes. So it's not 0.5%. 0.35 as an example. You guys understand? I'm not telling you to take your money out of your savings. What I'm telling you is money makes money. You're not using the money. It's the same thing as putting it into a mattress. Putting it under your, like, make your pillow full of money. It's great that you have the money, but it's not worth anything if you don't use it. Okay? So purchasing power is very important you guys understand. Inflation. Things increase over time. You guys got it? Thumbs up? Great. There are very simple products that you can get involved in, like real estate, where you earn more money than that. Way more than the 4%. There's very simple products. Now, with that being said, again, you're probably thinking, well, but there's risk involved, right? If I go invest the money, there's risk. Well, I just showed you the biggest risk of not investing the money. Money loses value. So every year that goes by, that $100 is now worth 97 in purchasing power. Okay? 94, 90, right? The dollar compared here is worth like $10 as an example, like something crazy, right? So it lost value over time. The same 100 lost value over time. Okay? Right? Ophelia says, good to know. Absolutely. Everybody needs to know. The thing is, we're not taught this. Like, there's not many high schools across the United States that actually teach financial health. Not wealth, health. Right? Because this is health. It's not wealth yet. To be wealthy, you need to make the money move. Right? Financial health is understanding what's good debt, bad debt, leveraging, right? The loss, the purchasing power, right? Financial wealth is now teaching you how to double or triple your money, right? So at least teach the basics to the kids. At least the basics of money to the kids. But no. When you start life, right? When you get out of school, the first thing you have already is debt. It's called a student loan. Like, hey, welcome to America. Here's a student loan. Start your life. When I say welcome to America, it's the kids don't understand anything until they're actually working. Until they're actually on their own. That's what I meant about welcome to America. Right? While you're in school, everything is fine and dandy because your parents, right, they do this, they do that, and you don't even feel it, you don't understand it. But then you're on your own and life hits you. You have debt to pay and debt to pay and debt to pay, right? Insurance is expensive as it is, right? So you start already at a loss. Okay? It is key that you guys teach the basics to your kids. If you did not have it, relay this now to your kids. Okay, one of the things that I like to talk about also is to get your kids already into your credit cards. You don't have to give them credit cards, right? But that's something called authorized user, right? For you, it doesn't hurt you. For them, if you have good credit, if you're working your credit cards the right way, right? For them, it builds their credit. So they could start their life with a 700 score, 800 score, right? That's huge. If we go back to what I was showing you, that's huge. Because with a good score, they can do whatever they want. Nowadays, unfortunately, we are ruled by that number. If that number is no good, your life sucks. Right? Meaning being able to purchase things or move. Like you want to get a car, if your score is no good, you get a high premium, so high interest rates. Pay more. Not worth it. You want to get a house, might not get approved depending on what you have, and only certain types of programs, and then you pay more. Right? Simple. Any type of loan that you're gonna get into. Personal loans, they don't even look at you if you don't have at least a 720 score for personal loans. So there's no way out of whatever you are. So then it says, my son is 19 years old. Wait, not even gonna comment. All right, with a higher credit score than you. That's why you don't like the banks. That's why you don't like the banks. Like even my kid has a higher score than me. She goes, the banks don't like you. It's okay. Anyway, you guys understand this? Good so far? Good stuff? All right, great. All right, so we're going to move forward. We talked about this. Real estate investments. Let's go. I already mentioned this. There's two types of real estate investments. There's the non-income and there's the income. Okay? The main advantage that you guys are going to see right here, the main advantage for an income property versus a non-income property is, look right here, the rewards. The reward of an income property is that you get income, you get appreciation, you get leverage, and tax advantages. A non-income property, the only thing you have is appreciation, and the only tax benefit you have is on the financial portion. That's it. So if you have a single family, it's an expense property with little to no tax benefits. Okay? The only thing you can deduct on your taxes when you have a residential property where you live, right? The only thing you can deduct is how much interest you're paying on your mortgage. If it's an income property, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. If it's an income property, it has the same appreciation because it increases value over time, right? We have leverage because as you pay it down, it builds equity, so you can borrow more, right, to buy another property or buy a car or whatever it is, okay? There's tax advantages. You can deduct the repairs. You can deduct depreciation, loss of value over time. And the best part is you get the income every month. So there's a lot of advantages. This is why I always talk about having income property versus non-income property. Look, can you talk about financial risk? I kind of did. Do you have a particular question? We talked about the financial risk is the loss of money, right? So we have here. We went over this right here. It's about with the changes in the financial markets, particularly interest rates, may reduce the value of your investment, right, by making it less desirable to others, and therefore you cannot sell. So when the market drops, it becomes very difficult to sell, right, and it becomes more expensive for you to maintain the property, as it says. So an investor may fail to produce any of all desired investment rewards listed earlier. The expected income might not be realized, and that's where there's vacancy, people leave, things get tough. If the market changes, there's no jobs. You guys are going to see this, unfortunately. It's going to happen this next year, right? There's businesses closed down, so people cannot afford to live in certain areas, so they're going to move out, find areas that are cheaper, right? So perhaps even worse, you're calling to add to the investment, so you have to put more money, right, into the property. So this makes your investment have a negative leverage. Again, this is why I don't put $100,000 into the property. I put $10,000 into the property. I'm going to save that 90, because if the market goes down, if things change, I don't want to be negative, right? I want to have my money saved aside for any emergency that I need to jump in and do something, right? So that's pretty much what it is. Financial risk is the potential of losing money with your investments, right? All right, we're on page 275. Now you're asking, Lula, would generic products affect this? Like what? Generic products like what? Anything, medication, etc. So medication is a different animal. So medication, unfortunately, doesn't matter what the market does. Medication, people need the medication. So that's a different thing. People need the medication. So pharmaceutical, they take advantage of the market by knowing that you need certain products, and if they're the only one around, we talked about this in real estate marketing in chapter 15. They're the only ones around. They'll double, triple, quadruple the money, the price of whatever it is. So, is there a direct relationship between inflation and pharmaceutical? Not as much. It's supply and demand. We've turned into a world that is so ruled by pharmaceutical that we forget that there's natural medicine. Right? That back in the day we didn't need any of this stuff, but they put it on. Oh, this pill will act in a couple of days. That's the difference, right? They feed us, or the food that goes on the table. Doesn't matter what you do. I'm sorry. Right now, anybody can say whatever they want about organic or not. There's chemicals regardless, right? And you can eat healthy, right? You can eat healthy, but our food here, and you'll notice this if you ever traveled, if you're from a different country originally, or if you ever travel to a different country, you'll notice the biggest difference is food. Right? I had this conversation the other day. We had a dinner meeting on Thursday, 5 of us, and we were talking about it, how when we go back to our country or we travel, whatever, we eat, and we still lose weight. Here in the U.S., you eat a little bit, you gain 10 pounds, right? It's something I don't understand here. It's the amount of water we retain, right? The amount of water we retain versus when you go out to different countries. So you could eat just an example. The other day I'm looking at it's a quarter-pound burger. I eat the quarter-pound burger. Later on I'm going to weigh myself and I gain 2 pounds. How do we go from a quarter pound to 2 pounds? You understand? Hey Ruth, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So you're asking about pharmaceutical. No, they created a system, right? And this is not a conspiracy theory or anything like that. That's not what I'm getting into. But they created a system, unfortunately, where we depend on pharmaceuticals. It has nothing to do with market financial risks or anything. No. You come up with a magic pill people will buy no matter what. It might not work. 90% of them don't. Might not work. But because you put a brand on it, Pfizer, boom, that's it. Right? It works. It works for you to take it, right? For you to pay, but it doesn't work for everybody's body. We're all different, right? So again, just making a long story here, but Generic products might be affected, yes. In terms of consumable stuff, yes, might be affected. Cost of things that cost of living exclude pharmaceutical from cost of living. Pharmaceutical is on its own race when it comes to inflation. It's its own race. That's why if you invest in pharmaceuticals, usually you make a lot of money. Especially, I don't know if you guys, Juan just made a comment. And yes, Danny, everything is processed over here. Yeah. So Juan made a comment. That's my thoughts on the new vaccine. On any vaccine, Juan. Any vaccine. Anything. You have to understand the way they test on a, even though it's control groups and large groups, it's not enough to say this will work for the whole population. Not enough to say that, because everybody is unique. And I'll tell you this, with 6 people in the house, I got the virus and I almost died. There's another person in the house that was very sick, and then there's 2 people in the house that they were like, okay, I cannot smell, I cannot taste, that's it. And the kids just had fevers or diarrhea or something like that. So every single body this is a controlled group. Inside the house, it's a controlled group, and everybody had a different experience. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Do you think there's a magic pill or a magic vaccine? I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about in general. Do you think there's a magic, or like take this and you'll be okay? Even the doctors don't know. Like that's why there's an old not an old saying, but it's like the meme. Take these 2 pills and call me in the morning, right? The doctors, they give you 2 pills, call me in the morning, right? That's an old meme from the doctors, because they're also experimenting. Hey, let's see if this works on you, right? It's supposed to help you, but in case it doesn't and you're still alive, call me in the morning. That's what it is. Are you guys understand this? That's the bottom line. So sorry for diverting from this, but when you ask me about pharmacy, all the products are affected by supply and demand. All the products are affected by the market. But pharmaceutical is a need that nobody can compete with, and there's no market for it. Meaning there's no controlled market for it. There's no, okay, it's better in New York than it is in Jersey. No, everybody needs it, and they put whatever price tag they want because you need, and insurance companies, they pay ridiculous prices for these things, right? It has its own thing. I'm going through some treatment because of my back injury I have for over 16 years. I received a bill the other day, and I'm like, wow. The anesthesiologist for a procedure that I had billed $2,400 to the insurance company for anesthesia. $2,400. Insurance company says, no, we're not paying this. So they sent, and I've seen this with hospitals, so I'm used to it with hospitals, but not with private practice. I saw $2,400 being billed. Insurance said no, so they said, hey, Bruno, all you have to pay is $126. How did we go from you billing the insurance $2,400 to saying, hey, we'll give you a credit, just give me a $126 and we're good? And this is what's wrong with the pharmaceutical or the medical industry, right? So Lula, that's what I wanted to go over. If you guys understand, when you ask about pharmaceutical, totally different. Yeah, they're the worst drug dealers. Your anesthesia was $2,000. You got your baby? No, but I understand them. That's a hospital, right? I totally understand that. And procedures, I totally understand. They can bill whatever they want. It's a practice. It's like I can charge whatever I want. Like I go to your house, you want to sell? I'm going to charge you 10%. You can either accept it or not. But my point was, how do we go from billing the $2,000 or $2,400 to then, hey, don't worry about it, just give me $126 and I'm happy? That discrepancy right there. Not that I want to be billed the $2,400. Not that I want to be billed the $2,400. But if you're charging me $126, charge the insurance company $126. That was my point. There shouldn't be a difference in price. And this is just like a government job. Like you get a you get a bid for a government job to do the streets here in Newark, as an example, you're going to get paid $120 an hour per person to do the job. Yet you're paying, nothing wrong with that, but you're paying $20 or $30 an hour to the employees, right? If you're doing the same job in a different scenario where it's not the city, it's private, instead of billing 120, you're going to be billing at $50 an hour. And again, these are the type of things that I'm telling you. Anything that's doesn't make sense. Oh, because it's the government, we charge more. Yeah. And that's why we are where we are, and they take advantage the way they take advantage. They know they're going to get paid more. I'm going through a whole different class right now. Anyway. I don't know if, last thing, and we're going to move forward. Search for a movie, for a video on YouTube that talks, it's a lady arguing with Congress, if I'm not mistaken, about these politicians having a credit every time somebody moves in, or it's a yearly credit, or every time somebody moves into office, they have a credit of almost $40,000 to change the furniture. So if I move in, right, to the power, I become like the mayor or whatever it is, and I'm like, I don't like the furniture, change everything. $40,000, and this lady's arguing. This lady's arguing that over 60%, if not 70% of the country does not make not even $40,000 a year. And here you are throwing money away for furniture. You guys understand? That gap right there, the discrepancy, is the problem. When it comes to pharmaceutical, when it comes to government jobs, all that stuff, that's the problem. All right. So search that video. You're gonna love it. Back to class. Real estate as an investment, the risk, rewards, and illiquidity. So I already explained this pretty much. So it should be fast from here on. Real estate investments participate in the general risks and the rewards of all investments. However, real estate investments are often complex. They're also distinguished by their lack of illiquidity, and you guys should know this by now, which is the inability to cash out quickly, right? And also the amount of management that they require. In addition, each investor has specific aims and circumstances that affect the viability of any particular real estate investment real estate investment for that individual. So licensees, I already explained this earlier, who lack the expertise in the area of real estate investment analysis should refer potential investors to a competent advisor. So if you don't know, pretty much, what you don't know, you don't talk about. You bring somebody else that knows so they can talk about it. So usually your broker should have an idea. Somebody in the office should have an idea. You don't just go and say, yeah, this is a great investment, without having an idea if it is or not. Nevertheless, licensees should be familiar with the basics of real estate as an investment. So, capital put into real estate is always subject to a full range of risk factors, market changes, income shortfalls, negative leverage, tax law changes, and poor overall return, as we already spoke about. Market demand, we already talked about. There might be a decline, like it happened in 2009, 10, 11, 12, and then started kind of catching up slowly. There might be a decline. So then you have negative equity, negative leverage. Another risk of investment property is the cost of development or operation. If startup costs or ongoing operating costs exceed the rental income, then the owner must dip into additional cash flow resources to maintain the investment until its income increases. If the income does not rise or if costs do not decline, an investor can simply, common mistake, run out of money. Okay? And this is led by some of you guys, realtors. Yeah, it's a great investment. Yeah. The higher the amount, the more comes into my pocket as a realtor, right? How about your clients? Does it pay itself? Is it a good investment for your client? Is your client somebody that has a bunch of money that can afford the $600,000 two-family, right? Or is your client somebody that just got approved for $600,000 and that's their limit? You think that's a good investment for your client? Is the rental enough to pay? Are they going to have to dip into their cash reserves every month to make this asset profitable. Most homeowners, they get into an investment property, they run out of money. Okay, because it's either just enough or they were negative to begin with. Okay, so leverage is a constant risk in real estate investment. If a property fails to generate sufficient income or revenue, the cost of borrowed money can bankrupt the owner, just as development and operating costs can. Investors often overlook the fact that leverage only works when the yield on the investment exceeds the cost of borrowed funds. And the tax law. Tax law is an ongoing risk for long-term real estate investment, because today the tax law could be one thing, 10 years from now it could be another, right? Even though for real estate is way safer than for a 401k or any other type of retirement account, okay? I can tell you that, because if the marginal tax rates, they change, right, or the income tax rate change over the years, with real estate, at least you have a house. With a 401k, if you guys saw what happened in the market crash, for instance, all the 401ks, people about to retire in 2008, 2009, they got their retirement fund cut in half almost. So yeah, and then taxed on the money if they wanted to cash out. All right, because these are the tax later products. You only pay taxes when you cash out, so at the end. Another consideration is opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is a return that an investor could earn on capital invested with minimal risk. If the real estate investment, with all its attendant risk, cannot yield a greater return than the investment elsewhere involving less risk, then the opportunity cost is too high for the real estate investment. Okay? So despite all the risks, pay attention, people. Children, get back to me. Thank you. Right? Camera. Thanks. Eyes on the screen. Thank you. All right. So despite all the risks, real estate remains a popular investment because historically, the rewards have outweighed the risks. That's the great thing about real estate. And I'm not saying this only because I'm teaching this class. Like I said, I also teach insurance, also financial advisor, retirement planner, all that good stuff, right? And an investor myself. But the rewards of real estate, like I said, even if the market drops, you get the rentals. If you have no rentals, you have the appreciation, right? There's always a counterbalance. And if neither one of these happen, the rental income usually pays off the loan and gives you some type of return, all right? So real estate has proven to be relatively resistant to adverse inflationary trends that have hurt money, debt, and stock investments. It keeps on increasing in value no matter what. Okay, there might be a dip, comes right back up. Okay. Now compare it. Compare with other classes of investment. Real estate is relatively liquid. We already said that. Real estate is illiquid because if you want to sell it to make money, to walk away with some money that you need right now, you need to sell it at a lower price. It's risk. Okay? You lose money. You don't get the full potential because you need to sell now. That's what it is. All right, so we already covered this. Real quick, we have real estate investment entities, direct syndicate and partnership, real estate investment trust, and real estate mortgage investment conduit. So real quick, direct investment is you as an individual. Okay. You are an active investor. You participate in the investment, right? So that's direct. Okay. Then we have syndicates. All right, so there you don't like banks. That's fine. How about we do something totally different then? A syndicate is all of us here have some money. Maybe you have more money than the person next to you, right? Maybe the person next to you has way more money than anybody here in this group. Does not matter. A syndicate is we're going to pool our resources together. Like I want to buy a 100-unit apartment building. I want to buy it right now. But I only have $100,000 as an example, right? But if we pool our resources together, maybe we have $1 million if we pull our resources together. So now we put this $1 million, let's say that's 20% down payment into the property. That's what we needed. So as a group, we are strong enough to buy the building that I wanted. And you guys saw the vision, we partner up, and that's it. Does that make sense? Right? So a syndicate is a group of investors combine the resources to buy, develop, and operate the property. What I cannot do by myself, we're doing it together. Syndicate. All right? And the syndicate could be formed in several different ways. So again, we're leveraging other people's money. It's like, hey, I'm not by myself, I'm with you guys. So it reduces the risk. It could be done in several different ways. We can start a syndicate as a general partnership or as a limited partnership. And there's more we're going to talk about after. As a general partnership, guys, eliminate all distractions while in this. I can guarantee you there's some people here in this group right now that are taking the classes again because they failed the exam. Right? So you want to fail the exam or you want to pass? Let me know. Raise your hand if you want to pass this exam. Okay, then stay with me. Kick everybody out of whoever's next to you, whatever distractions you have. I guarantee you, you will need every single moment of this class. Okay? It's only for 4 hours a day. You guys can do this. It's only for 4 weeks. You can do this. Okay? So, general partnership. If we are all partners, we are could be general partners or limited partners. The difference between a general or a limited partnership is whether we're active managing the business or not. If we are general partners and all of us are active in the business, that means we're also liable for the profits and the losses that generate, and we are equally liable. What does that mean? It means that so there's strict and joint liability. That means that if we get sued for $1 million, right, and you don't have the money to pay, and let's say I do, I have to pay the $1 million and then collect from you whenever possible. General partners, we all share the liability. We are responsible for one another. So if you don't have the money, the others have to compensate for it. Are you guys understand this? If you don't have the money, the others have to compensate for this. That's the problem with general partnership. In a limited partnership, all right, this is going to be tough today. I know it's Monday. In a limited partnership, the difference is we have to have at least one general partner, right, that organizes, operates, and is generally responsible for the partnership, right? And then we have limited partners. Limited partners are passive. They're not active partners. So we call them silent partners. That means they have no voice in the business. So silent partners, it's not people that are hiding, right? A lot of people think, hey, I'm going to be your silent partner. Like nobody needs to know that I'm here. No, it's not that. A silent partner means you put up the money and you shut up. Simple as that. I manage the business. You put up the money. I give you the returns. But you don't step into my business and tell me how to run it. That's the difference. The advantage of being a silent partner or limited partner, the advantage of being a silent partner or limited partner is that whatever money you put in, that's all you might lose. So if you make $1 million, you get a return on your money. If you get sued for $1 million and all you put was $10,000, that's all you stand to lose. In a general partnership, or the general partner in this whole operation, is fully liable. Okay, so it's fully liable, fully responsible for the interests. Okay, so that means that I get sued, not you, right? Meaning I'm the one responsible for it. The problem with partnerships versus the other forms of ownership is that the partnerships go beyond the business, right? We're going to talk about that better in a different chapter, but partnerships, they go beyond the business. A partnership, I might have to sell my house in order to satisfy what was our debt as a group. That's the problem with partnerships. It's passed through liability. So it goes even to our personal lives, okay? The next one we have is called a REIT, or REIT. And that's a real estate investment trust. To qualify as a REIT, the trust must receive at least 70%, 75% of the income from real estate. Okay, so at least 75% of income must come from real estate. For you to qualify as a real estate investment trust, at least 75% of the income must come from real estate. All right. REMIC is just a group of people that get together and buy mortgage in the secondary market. Right? You guys already know what secondary market is. So we're going to skip that one and we're going to go into taxation. All right. The questions you might have in the state exam are based on taxes. So make sure you pay attention to this, please. So taxation. You have taxable income cost recovery, which is the same as depreciation. We have gain on sale or capital gains or profits. Okay. We have interest and we have passive activities. Okay, so real estate investments are taxed on the income they produce and on the increase of value or gain when the investment is sold. These forms of taxation are distinct from ad valorem tax or general tax of real estate. Taxable, which we'll talk in the next chapter, taxable income from real estate is the gross income received minus any expenses, deductions, or exclusions of the current tax law. Taxable income from real estate is added to the investor's other income and taxed at the investor's marginal tax rate. Okay. Cost recovery or depreciation, these mean the same. Cost recovery or depreciation is regarding the property's value during its lifetime. Okay? So when we talk about cost recovery or depreciation, let's say we replace the roof. The roof comes with different types of warranties. They'll tell you it's a 30-year roof. That means it's supposed to last 30 years. That's the life, the useful life of the asset. So depreciation is a concept that understands that over time things need to be replaced. Like there's a wall. Is this wall going to last forever? No. Over time, it's going to need to be replaced or maintained. Something needs to happen for the property, for the property. You have to keep on living. Do you guys understand this? So depreciation is recovering the cost of maintenance or repair. Depreciation is recovering the cost of maintenance or repair. Write that down. Depreciation is recovering the cost of maintenance or repair during the asset's useful life. So, if the roof was, as an example, if the roof costs $10,000, okay, and they say it's for 30 years cost, right, and the life is 30 years. Right? Then for us to figure out, I'm going to make it actually easier, $30,000. So for us to figure out over time, how much does it lose value, then we need to do $30,000 divided by 30 years. Right? So every year, that roof loses $1,000 worth of value. So 1 year goes by, it's now worth $29,000. Another year go by, it's worth $28,000, and so on. So he loses $1,000 every year because it was supposed to last 30. All right. So over time, you can deduct these losses. Over time, you can deduct these losses from your taxes. Okay. Now, one thing that's important is this. Depreciation or cost recovery, it's allowed only for income properties. So if you repair your primary home where you live, you cannot recover the cost of improvement. But if it's an investment property or income property, you're allowed to recover the cost of improvement. Okay? Good? Got to remember this. Only for income properties. With that being said, what is an improvement? Nadia, what's an improvement? Guys, what's an improvement? I asked this a couple of chapters ago, and I'm asking again. Okay, keep on going. Give me more answers. Okay. About value. Okay, making something better. Okay. Rose says when it's remodeling. Okay. Added value. Okay. I got a good answer. And for the win, Leonard, the closest one to the answer. And yes, making something better, got it. But improvements when it comes to real estate, okay? Land cannot be depreciated. So what can we depreciate is the improvements. The improvement is anything added to raw land. Anything added to raw land. So that's why Pinar wrote man-made work. Right? So that's what he wrote. Okay? So I'll take work out of it. Okay? So man-made improvements, because nature does not put a house there. Nature does not put a pool. Nature does not pave. So land, as raw land, does not depreciate, does not lose value over time. This is from week 1. Okay? So improvements, anything added to the land is considered an improvement of what? Of the raw land, land as it was, as nature intended. That's why now it's considered, after the improvements, it is considered real estate. There's raw land, if you guys remember, land by itself, and then there's real estate. Real estate is when we have improvements to the land, right? I just want to change something else here, just to protect myself, even though the book says man-made. I want to make sure I don't get sued saying, hey, why man only? So human. If there's a human touch to it, Media just laughs. If there's a human touch to it, then it's called improvements. Okay? All right, depreciation. Who can tell me what depreciation is? Nadia, you should know. I'm gonna pick on you. You guys need to understand that walking around and stuff, I need to stop this in the class. Every time I see some, not for you, Nadia, but in general, for the next classes, somebody walking around, I'm kicking you out of the class. Just letting you know. It's Monday. I'm ruthless. It is. What is depreciation? Let me know. Lula says loss. You need to says loss. Correct. Loss of what? You're just saying loss. Correct. But of what? Give me a little bit more. Let's get more detail into this. Amount of value over time. Great. Why? Work with me. Why? Why would you lose value over time? I know you are. Age gets old. Life of assets. All right, Danny gets old. Now he says age, right? So you're telling me that we depreciate? Guys, we are like port wine. If you don't know what port wine, right? It's Portuguese wine that gets better over time. That's it. We get better over time. We appreciate. We don't depreciate. Even though it starts hurting here, it starts hurting there, and it hurts everywhere. We don't appreciate. Wear and tear. Very good. All right. So over time, things need to be replaced. Correct. Over time, things need to be replaced. So there's a loss in value. Right? Guys, it's the same thing as your car. As soon as you drive the car out of that parking lot when you bought it, it loses value automatically because now you're using it. It depreciates immediately. A brand new house, as soon as you walk in, you start using it. It depreciates. Meaning, things are now being used. Wear and tear. Right? Very important. So, depreciation is a tax concept that allows us to recover that cost. Okay? Allows us to recover that cost. For the IRS, the depreciation schedule, that means how long can you depreciate the asset for? Okay? The depreciation schedule for residential is 27.5 years. So if I put something today into the property, like a brand new roof, $10,000, that's how much it cost me. I can divide that cost by 27.5 years. And a percentage of that cost is going to be credited towards my taxes. Okay, so you can recover the cost of maintenance, cost of repair. Got it? For 27.5 years. So if you have a question in the state exam or school exam, something like, hey, John owned the property for 29 years, right? How much? So the property was $275,000. How much can he depreciate this year? How much can he claim as a tax depreciation this year? Let me know. He bought the property. He put $275,000 into the property. 29 years later, how much can he depreciate? Let me know. A simple question if you guys understood what I said until now. Just throwing numbers. One is like 10,000. I don't know. The next comes 100, and the next comes is 10, and then 1. Goes to 80. What's going on over there? Danny says 9,482. Where did you come up with that number? See, when you take the exam, guys, when you take the exam, this is where you guys are going to fail. It's paying attention. You're not going to fail the exam. But where you're going to fail is paying attention. Where most people fail is not reading the questions or listening to the questions properly. We just went over this, guys. The max that you can deduct for depreciation is 27.5 years. I'm asking you, if you own the property for 29 years, how much can you depreciate? If the max is 27.5, at 29, the answer is 0. We can no longer depreciate because the max is 27.5. I put a brand new roof today as an example. It cost me $10,000 as an example, right? I can only depreciate a portion of it, of that money, of that cost, over 27.5 years. After 27.5 years, I can no longer depreciate anything unless it's a new improvement. Okay? If it's for commercial, it's 39 years. You guys understand? I'll stop here for a second, just waiting for you guys. You have any questions here? You cannot recover any more than 27.5 years. So whatever you have, you divide by those years, and then it's a particular percentage that you can adjust. Okay? But the max amount of time you can depreciate. So let's figure out, there's appreciation, which is a gain, and there's depreciation, which is a loss, right? Internal Revenue Code says you made money this year, you pay taxes this year. Okay? So they want to recover their money as quick as possible. Not even their money, but they want it as quick as possible. If you have a loss, right? If you have a loss, they'll say, oh, wait a minute. There's a maximum that you can deduct for losses every year. There's a maximum. So if you have a loss that's substantial, we're going to spread it over several years. You can, every year that goes by, you can deduct for that loss, but you cannot do it all at once. Okay, so if it's gains, pay me now. If it's a loss, pump your brakes. Over several years, you deduct, not all at once. Right? That's the issue with the IRS. Okay, it's the same thing as going to the bank. You want to deposit $1 million? Go ahead. Try to withdraw $1 million. Right? Impossible. You have to make appointments. Will not be available right away, and there's a bunch of questions and this and that. Same thing with the IRS. You made money, they want it now. You lost money over several years. That's what this is. Okay? Questions? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, we're going to go with the Monday morning faces. Okay, great. So next. Next, we have something which is called gain on the sale. How much money you realized at the time of the sale, right? So right here it says, when real estate, whether non-income or income, is sold, a taxable event occurs. If the sales proceed exceed the original cost of the investment, subject to some adjustments, there is a capital gain that is subject to tax. If the sales proceeds are less than the original adjustment, then you have a capital loss. Obvious. What we can do is defer reporting the gain or the loss. How do we defer? By doing an exchange. Okay? So I sell my property today and I made a $100,000 profit. I have to pay capital gains on it. So I have to pay taxes on the profit that I made. Correct, guys? Pay attention to me. Correct? I made a $100,000 profit, so I have to pay taxes on that money. Okay. What the IRS says, thanks to Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code, there's 1031, 32, 33, 34, 35. These are different types of sections within the Internal Revenue Code for different types of products that allow us to do an exchange and not pay taxes right away. The one that applies to real estate is called a Section 1031. Okay? When you hear about 1031 exchange, all we're saying is, I got two properties that are exactly the same, meaning they're income properties, right? And I'm exchanging, I'm swapping, right? If there's an exchange, is there profit, guys? When we have an exchange, do we have profit? The answer is no. And because we don't have profit, we cannot pay taxes on it. You understand? I made $100,000 profit, but because I rolled it into another property, so I exchanged that money into another property, right? Then I don't pay taxes. Now, I don't pay taxes now. What I'm doing is deferring or pushing for later. I'll pay taxes when I sell the second property. So I bought a property and then I sell it. I will pay taxes eventually, but not right now. Okay, so a Section 1031 exchange, okay, remember this, a Section 1031 exchange is a trade, an exchange, a rollover. Because you're rolling over into the next property, you're never taxed on that money. It doesn't come to your pocket. It goes into the next property. Okay? So it is deferred until the investment or business property is sold and not exchanged. All right? Simple concept, guys. Simple concept is, if you don't want to pay taxes, right? Most people don't want to pay taxes. If you don't want to pay taxes, the simple concept here is defer the next property, meaning roll the money, the profit into the next one. Defer to the next one. Defer into the next one. Defer into the next one. And then, you know what? There's the natural course of life where we die. Right? So there's a couple of books that will talk about that, which is defer, 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 die. All right? You'll never pay taxes. Okay? So roll the money over to the next property. Don't cash out the money. Nothing stops you to getting into a better property, because over time you get into a better property, right? And you make more monthly. That's different. Capital gains is not based on the rental income. Capital gains is based on the sale of the property. How much did you put in? How much did you take out? You guys get it? So if you defer, if you keep on rolling over to the next property, right, then you don't pay gains. It's the same thing. I don't know if you guys ever heard of who knows about a 401k? Raise your hand if you know what a 401k is. Great. So in the 401k, if you want to move the money from your 401k into another 401k or into another equivalent product, right? The Internal Revenue Code also says, hey, you got 6 months from cashing out from that 401k. You got 6 months to put into another 401k. Or you got 6 months to put into another product that's equivalent to a 401k. If you do it that way, you don't have to pay taxes on the money earned over time. You're just rolling over to a different product that it's like kind, meaning investment products. So you guys understand this? For real estate, it's the same as a 401k. Just roll over and you don't pay taxes. Okay? And then the final one is your rollover. You roll over and that's it. You're done. You don't pay taxes. Simple. Okay? For tax purposes, mortgage interest, guys, it's the only thing that's always deductible. The principal is not deductible. Okay? So mortgage interest is always, always, always deductible. Hey, Jen. Jen is asking, how many times can you roll over? I don't know. There's a kid's song that talks about monkeys and they keep on rolling over, so I don't know. Never ends. Right? Monkeys jumping on the bed, falls, and they roll over. Anybody got kids? Am I the only one? So Jen, you can roll over as many times as long as you keep on deferring. You can defer, defer, defer forever. And then final roll over and that's it. As many times as you want. The problem is when you sell the property, so right here, that's what we're saying here. When you sell the property and there's no more exchanges, so you sell your final rollover, let's say, and you say, you know what? I'm going to keep the money. right? Way to keep the money. So when you say you want to keep the money when you cash out, that's when you pay taxes on all your rollovers. So your first property, the tax was X amount of dollars. Your second property, the capital gain was X amount of dollars. Your third property was X amount of dollars. Now maybe you had gains, maybe you had losses. But your final one is the one that's going to say, this is how much you have to pay in capital gains from the beginning of times until now, right? If you have losses, then obviously it reduces the amount of tax you have to pay. And if you're not alive, then you're not paying it, right? So roll over as many times as you can. Sam says, can you say what you said about mortgage interest? I said mortgage interest is always deductible, whether it's your primary residence or if it's an investment property. This is the only thing that's always deductible in either non-income properties or income properties. Okay? If you have a primary home, this is the only thing you can deduct. Most of the times, that's what it is. It's interest, mortgage interest. That's why at the end of the year, your mortgage company sends you a summary, right, for you to declare on your taxes. They say, hey, you paid this much in interest, right? But if it's the principal amount, right, that's what we have here. The principal amount, which is your monthly payments towards the amount borrowed, that's not deductible. Only the interest portion of your payments is deductible. All right, so just as an example, if you pay $2,000 a month, and this is principal and interest, right? Let's say that $1,500 a month is interest only, and then $500 is principal. Okay. The $1,500 at the end of the year is tax deductible. The principal is not. Only what you pay towards interest, tax deductible. So your monthly payment is still the $2,000, but only whatever goes towards interest is deductible. Okay. Good, Sam? All right, cool. All right, passive activities. So passive activities are for limited partnerships. When you are limited, you're a passive investor. If it's a passive investment, then any losses you have on a passive investment can only be applied to passive gains. Okay? So to make it simple, the simplest form I can, there's two tables. There's the active income, two sides of the table, I'm sorry, active income, and there's the passive. Okay. Under the active income, you have gains and you have losses. Under the passive income, you have gains and you have losses. So let's say you had $10,000 gains, right? On the active income, and you had $10,000 gain on the passive income, right? But then you had $5,000 in losses, and loss could be repairs, money you put in. So loss could be repairs, okay, as an example. And here you had $5,000 of losses. This is not how it works exactly. It's just to give you an idea. I'm not a CPA, not an accountant, so I don't know how to punch in the numbers and give you the actual answers for this like out of the top of my head. But let's say the profit here, because you had the loss, the profit here was $5,000, and obviously the profit here was $5,000. Okay. So here, because it's your active income, you have to pay, let's say, 20% 20% tax on it, as an example, right? So have to pay the IRS $1,000. That's how much you have to pay the IRS, as an example, right? And here, it's tax different. So these losses right here, you'll be at a different percentage. Instead of 20%, let's say it's 5% is what you can declare here. 5%, right? What I want you guys to understand is that you would assume that you can take this $250 and apply here. So instead of having to pay $1,000, I only have to pay $750 because of that, right? The answer is no. All these are taxed at different levels. All these are taxed at different levels. Active losses directly impact active gains. Passive losses only direct impact passive gains, and then they're taxed at a different percentage. So let's say, again, I'm not 100% on this because I'm not the CPA, the actual numbers, but the concept is this. Let's say you can only declare 10% of that towards your active income, right? So when you do your taxes at the end of the year, $1,000 to the IRS minus $25 from losses. How much you have to pay the IRS? $975. So it doesn't reduce directly your active. There's no direct relationship. Whatever's active is active, passive is passive. You guys got it? They're all taxed at different rates, but one does not directly influence the other. So if I lost $5,000 and I lost $5,000 here, then this should have been zero. Therefore, I don't have to pay any taxes. Does that make sense? But unfortunately, because this is passive, it falls in its own category, taxed at its own rate, with minimal impact, as far as losses, with minimal impact on the on the active gains. You guys got it? All you need to remember, very simple, all you need to remember, it's not the percentages, because not even I am giving you the correct percentages. All you need to remember is that losses from passive activities can only be applied to offset income from other passive activities. Active to active, passive to passive. That's what you need to remember. Okay? Active losses to active gains. Passive losses to passive gains. That's the only thing you can offset or reduce in your taxes. Give me a thumbs up if you got it, if we're good to go. Okay, great. So, next thing we got is investment analysis of a residence. These are going to be quick. Ready? If it's a residence, it's a non-income property, therefore it's an appreciation property. So the way we look at it is current value minus original price gives you total appreciation. So if they ask you a question, right? The house was bought for $300,000. It's worth more or less $400,000. How much did it appreciate by? Simple. You bought it for $300,000. It's currently $400,000. It appreciated $100,000. So that's easy, right? If they ask you the percentage, what was the increase in value over time? Right here. It's the total appreciation divided by the original price. So it appreciates. So it's not the 400 that we need. We need to figure out how much did it appreciate. Right? And then how much did we pay for it? So it's not the 400, what it's worth today. To find out the percentage of increase is how much did it increase? So appreciation or increase. Right? We divide that by the original investment, the 300,000, and we can say that this property gained 33% in value, or increased 33% in value, or appreciated 33% in value. They all mean the same. Okay? And then if they ask you, right? So this is an example of a potential question. That's why we're breaking it down. If they ask you, well, what was the yearly appreciation? Because this is the total appreciation, right? What is the yearly appreciation? Well, in this question, they're talking about per year, right? So in this question, they said the property was owned for 3 years. What was the yearly appreciation? Well, now it's simple. If the total appreciation was 33%, right? And we held it for 3 years. Well, 33% divided by 3, it was 11% per year. 11% per year. Okay? You guys good? So the question, if they posed the question in the state exam or school exam, would have been, hey, you bought a property for $300,000. 3 years later, this property is worth $400,000. How much did it appreciate per year? Simple as that. So they told you, purchased originally for $300,000, right? It's worth 3 years later. So they give you 2 pieces of information already. 3 years later, it's worth $400,000. So they gave you all the elements of the question. And these were the steps you needed to take to figure it out. You needed to figure out what was the increase, was $100,000. Divide that increase by the original price, 33%. Divide by 3 years. And boom, the total appreciation per year was 11%. So 3 simple steps. As long as you know the information that was given was original cost, current value, for how long you held the property. Okay? Any questions? Let me know if you have questions. No questions? All right. So we're going to talk about tax liability. Ready? I'm going to give you guys a break in a second, so don't worry. You'll de-stress and decompress in a second. So we're going to talk about tax liability. Under tax liability, we need to figure out how much is taxable, how much is not, right? So it says right here, the seller of a principal residence may owe tax on capital gain that results from the sale. The IRS defines gain on the sale as the amount realized from the sale minus the adjusted basis from the home sold. Amount realized is how much money you made, okay? It's also known as the net proceeds. So amount realized is the net proceeds from the sale. Net, how much I took home, right? So the sales price minus the costs of the sale equals amount realized. Now here's an example. Right here. Larry and Mary sold their home for $350,000. Their selling costs, including a commission that they paid broker Betty, and amounts paid to the inspectors, surveyor, title company, these amount to 10% of the selling price, or $35,000. 10%, right? The amount they realized from the sale, therefore, was $315,000. This is how much money they made, how much they took home from the sale. Okay. The adjusted basis, right, is pretty much starts with basis, is a measurement of how much money is invested in the property. So basis, there's a beginning basis, and this is the cost to purchase. And adjusted basis is the cost plus improvements. So beginning basis is the original cost to purchase. So I put $100,000 to buy this property. That's my basis, beginning basis, right? So every time you see the word basis here, it's cost, okay? Adjusted basis is the cost to purchase plus improvements minus depreciation. We're going to turn this into an example in a second. Okay. So again, beginning basis is what we begin with. It cost me this much to buy. Adjusted basis is, well, it cost me this much to buy. Later on, it cost me this much to improve, but I did apply for depreciation over the years, so we have to deduct that. So cost plus improvements minus depreciation. So here you go. Next page. Adjusted base. It's right here. I'm going to go back up. I charge for that. It's this. This right here, what I wrote. I just wrote that this was the cost to purchase. That's what I wrote up there. Okay, so beginning basis is how much it costs to purchase. Okay, then we capital improvements. For instance, the roof. Okay. Minus exclusions, credits, or other amounts received. And this is the adjusted basis. Okay. So beginning basis, cost to purchase, capital improvements, for example, the roof, and then exclusions, credits, or other amounts received. We deduct that. Okay, so here's the example. Mary and Larry, so you know they sold the property for $350,000, right? And then the cost of the sale was $35,000, so they walked away with $310,000, right? Now they originally paid $200,000 for their home. A few years later, they spent $10,000 putting a new AC. So how much did they put in? $210,000. If we don't talk about depreciation, then this is the adjusted basis. Period. That's where it stops. So the gain on the sale is the amount realized, so the net sales proceed, minus the adjusted basis, and that equals gain on the sale. So here's the actual numbers. We sold for $350,000. The costs, or the closing cost, whatever, was $35,000. So the net was $315,000. This is the gross, right? Net was $315,000. But I have costs. Okay? And the costs are, how much did I purchase for? Beginning base. Cost of the old home, purchase cost, right? We put $10,000 in, so the adjusted basis was $210,000. So was my profit $315,000? My profit was not $315,000 because I invested $210,000. My actual profit was $105,000. Okay? Because the adjusted basis is my investment in the property. Okay? I made $315,000 is what I made on the sale, but I had the original cost. And a lot of people forget about this. Well, I'm going to make $300,000. So I'm going to pay taxes on $300,000. No. Okay? You pay taxes on the $300,000 minus whatever money you put in. So again, your profit is $105,000. Jen says AC should be 16,000. It's a different kind of AC. Jen, they all have different values. I guess you paid 16,000 recently. If you need a good AC guy, let me know. With decent prices and amazing work, let me know. All right, next we have, in this case, Mary and Larry, right? Their capital gain was 315,000 minus 210, or 105. They will owe tax on this amount in the year of the sale unless they qualify for the exclusion described below. So they would have to pay capital gains on 105,000. But guys, pay attention. There's an exclusion or exemption of capital gains. If you are married, filing jointly, your exclusion is $500,000. That means that up to $500,000, you don't have to pay capital gains. So I sold the property, I made $105,000. Do I have to pay capital gains? No, because it's less than $500,000. Okay. If you're single, $250,000. Okay. If you're single, $250,000. In this scenario, do I have to pay capital gains? The answer is no, because I only made $105,000. I did not make $300,000. I made $105,000. If the full profit was $305,000 or $15,000, whatever, then I would have to pay the difference between the $315,000 and the exclusion. I would pay taxes on that. Okay. So if it's your primary residence, guys, if it's your primary residence, you're single, 250,000 profit, up to 250,000 profit, you don't have to pay taxes. If you're married, up to $500,000 profit, you don't have to pay capital gains on it. And guess what, guys? We can do this every 2 years on a residence. Hi, Sinead's mom. Trying to figure out how not to pay taxes. That's what it is. Oh, that's grandma? Okay, sorry. You look very young. All right. Go, grandma. Can I get her number? No? Okay, fine. All right, so very important, guys. Now, in all seriousness, this is for residents. You got to remember, if you're married, filing jointly, or if you're single, it's the profit on the sale of a property. You can do this every 2 years, qualify for this exemption. That means if you move into the property, you stay there for 2 years because you have to live in the property for at least 2 years, you don't pay taxes right here. Okay? You got to stay there for 2 out of the previous 5 years. You must have used the property as a principal residence for at least 2 years. Okay? So every 2 years you can do this, not pay taxes at all. Who likes that? Raise your hand if you like this idea. All you have to do is move every 2 years. That's it. Or 5 years. Okay, so 2 out of the previous 5 years. So if you live there for 5 years, as long as the 2 years prior to applying for this, if you live there for at least 2 years, right, out of the previous 5, then you have the exemption. And you can keep on doing this. Okay? If it's an income property, the concept is exactly the same. It's just that we have pre-tax cash flow, we have different tax liability, and we have after-tax cash flow. Okay? So real quick, what is cash flow, first of all? The word cash flow, what is it? Do not read. Guys, stop reading. Just write whatever you think it might be. What is cash flow? We're about to go into the break, so what is cash flow? Let me know. Money? Well, cash, yeah. Money coming in and out? Okay. Juan, stop it. All right, next. What else? What is cash flow? Needy is laughing. Rose says, anything extra? Alexa's great. What is cash flow? Well, it's the flow of cash. Great. The money game. There you go. Perfect. Make sure you guys get the cash flow game. That's very, very important. Cash flow game. All right? So since you wrote money game, this cash flow game is like a Monopoly on steroids. But cash flow, money left after expenses paid. For instance, if you guys, for instance, your income from the property is $5,000, but your mortgage is $4,000. If we don't consider anything else, what is your cash flow? It's positive $1,000. So there's positive cash flow because Rose wrote anything extra. It's not always extra because some people are paying to live or to invest. So if your mortgage is $5,000, but the property only brings $4,000, you are negative $1,000. You have a negative cash flow. So cash flow is whatever's left after expenses paid. If you still have to pay money to keep the property, then you have a negative cash flow. If after paying everything, you still collect money in your pocket, then you have a positive cash flow. Okay? So definitely, if you guys like to play games, if not, still get it regardless. The cash flow game is very important. I also have the author of cash flow games, the cash flow game I have here on the student portal. If you go to your library here, recommended books, okay? It's the very second book right there. Second book that I recommend here is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Make sure you guys read that. Pretty much what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not. About the cash flow, about making the money work for you. If you're not putting the right numbers in, you're just wasting money. Like guys, if you have a 9 to 5, there's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5, but if you have a 9 to 5, then pretty much you're paying to work, right? Because you're working for the money, right? What they'll teach you is this guy, Robert Kiyosaki, had 2 dads. He only had one, but then he has his friend's dad. The friend dad was a rich guy, and he taught him how to make money work for you. While his poor dad, and again, there's nothing wrong with this with values, right? His poor dad said, you work for 40 years, 40 hours a week, make 40% of that money at the end. I don't know if you guys ever understood that, but you work 40 hours a week for 40 years in order to get retired, right? And when you retire, your Social Security is 40% of your income. So 40 hours a week, 40 years for 40% of the income. What Rich Dad told this guy is, listen, there's nothing wrong with doing that to keep you afloat, right? And that's what the cash flow game is, which is really cool. It shows you how you need to do your things, you need to work, right? But start investing, start making the money work for you. And then eventually your investments will substitute your job. So by the time you retire, you're not depending on a social insecurity. We don't even know if it's going to be here by then, right? It's not guaranteed. Especially the way they've been playing with our money lately. Nothing's guaranteed, right? So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great book to have. And The Cash Flow Game. Oh yeah, there's more books there. You guys can check it out. They're all very good for your growth. Daniela, if an investment property has negative cash flow, is it tax deductible? So everything is tax deductible when it's an investment property. So if you have losses, yes, they're tax deductible. It's losses. You're putting money into it. But we're gonna go over that in a second. All right. So cash flow. It's the difference between the amount of actual cash flowing into the investment as a revenue and out of the investment for expenses, debt service, and all other items. How do we calculate cash flow? An example here is we have the potential rental income. If you guys remember this from chapter 16, it's very similar. Potential rental income is assuming 100% occupancy. We have to be ready for vacancy and collection losses, where we have an empty apartment, or we have tenants that stop paying us. And that brings us to the effective rental income. That means what we can expect to receive. You guys remember this from chapter 16, the income approach, right? Then we have to look at other income that might come in to reach the gross operating income, GOI. We're going to deduct the operating expenses, which is utilities, for instance, taxes. We're going to deduct reserves, because if you have an investment and you don't put money aside just in case, then you're operating your business incorrectly. Whatever business it might be, you have to put money aside just in case. And we reach what's called the net operating income. Always the key number that you need. Okay? Now, the net operating income never included, the expenses, never included mortgage, which is debt service. So now, this was the number we needed for the income approach, for instance, right? But for tax purposes, or to figure out the cash flow, now we deduct the mortgage if we have one. If we deduct the mortgage, we reach the pre-tax cash flow. This is the money comes into our pocket every month before we do taxes. Right? This comes into our pocket every single month. At the end of the year, we have to pay taxes on this money. Right? That's the pre-tax cash flow. All right, so here's an example of the pre-tax cash flow turning into numbers. This property brings $70,000 every year. $70,000. Based on our experience or whatever happened this year, right? We lost $4,200 between the vacancy, between one person leaving and another renting, or somebody did not pay their rent. So the effective rental income, what we really got was $65,800. We had another income, which was, for instance, the laundry machines, the coin-operated laundry machines, right? They brought us another $2,000 as an example. So our gross operating income is $67,800. The operating expenses, which are utilities, for instance, taxes, insurance, whatever, employees or whatever, $35,000. That's my expense every year. And I put on the side always $3,500, so reserves, just in case. How much do we take home? Out of the $70,000 we took home, so NOI, $29,300. That's strictly from the property. We have debt service, mortgage, $20,000 worth of mortgage that we have to pay for the year. So what was our cash flow? What was our net, the actual net? $9,300. So out of this property, we made $9,300. So we have to pay taxes on $9,300, correct? Yes? All right, let's figure that out. We're going to move to tax liability. How do we pay taxes? You guys remember the cash flow, right? Was 9,300. That's the cash flow. That was the net. Okay. Tax liability, that's the net operating income, was 29,300. Now we need to add the 3,500 in reserves. Remember, we can deduct interest. So out of those $20,000 that we paid in mortgage, we could deduct interest of $10,000. Right? And we can also deduct depreciation. This year, IRS says you can deduct $22,000 in depreciation. So with that being said, how much is our taxable income? It should be 9,300, right? That's what we said before, 9,300. No, that's how much comes into our pocket. But after all the deductions, the taxable income, this is the benefit of having investment properties or having a business. We made 9,300 into our pocket. But we're allowed to deduct interest, we're allowed to deduct depreciation. So how much money we have to pay? Based on $800, my tax rate is 24% as an example. That's my marginal tax rate. That means I have to pay the IRS a whopping $192. So, what was my cash flow after taxes? That's how much I had to pay the IRS. What's my cash flow after the taxes? By the way, this number is off. I don't know why they put this as 192, right, that we just saw. But we made 9,300. Let's assume this is correct. But this is we made 9,300 that came into our pocket. We had to pay taxes of 224. It's actually 192. We just saw the math, right? That means we make $9,000 clean after paying taxes. You guys understand this? All right. So this will not be in the state exam, but and it's not that hard, but it's something that you guys need to understand when it comes to cash flow of a property. Right? What do I have to pay? Do I have to pay taxes on the 9,300 I made? No. Investment properties always allow us deductions for interest and for depreciation. Okay? The best thing in the world is having an investment property. Watch the rich or read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Very important. Okay? We're not going to talk about ROI, C/C, or ROE. So do you have any questions? Questions you'd like to address? Or you're like, Bruno, please have a break. Is that where we are? All right, cool. So, with that being said, it is now let's see, it is now 12:44. What are we gonna do? Next chapter is a short chapter. 12:44. Chapter 2. So 12:44. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna be back at 1. Got 16 minutes. Then we have half an hour to go over chapter. Okay. I mean, we have 1 hour. I'm sorry. Go over next chapter. So, guys, 1 o'clock. We will be right back. I'm going to close this session. I'm going to open another one for the YouTubers, for you guys. Go de-stress a little bit about from this chapter. The next one's going to be a lot easier. All right? See you guys in a bit.